Okay, so there's been a project I've been thinking about for a little while, and it's probably a project that a lot of people have done or have been thinking about themselves. So that project is I want to do a video doorbell upgrade. So currently I just have a regular doorbell. You press the doorbell, the chime over my shoulder goes off, and then I know someone's at my front door. So, you know, the typical doorbell that everyone has, or at least grew up with. The video doorbells seem to get more and more popular, and there's for a really good reason for it. So there's some cool things about it. So someone comes to your door, whether you're home or not, you know someone came to your door. You can talk to them in a lot of instances. But the big thing for me is I'm aware who's at the door. I can look at my phone or look at the app and see who's at my door. If it's a salesperson and they ignored my sign that says please no salespeople, I can ignore them and just sit there and keep watching my TV show or keep doing what I'm doing. So that's one thing I want to do. I want to add the video doorbell to my home, and then the second thing I want to do is I want to add a second doorbell chime downstairs. So I've got a standard ranch home with a basement. So I've got the doorbell chime upstairs, that works great, but I want to add a second one downstairs because there's times when I'm down there at the end of the day, I'm watching a TV show or something like that, and I can't hear what's going on up here. The tornado came through. If it ripped the whole house off its foundation, maybe I'd hear it, but a lot of times not. I got the stereo cranked way up high. So now you might think to yourself, well, if you put in the video doorbell, you can see that someone's at the door on your phone. But there might be an instance where, you know, I've run the phone down, it's up here charging, or I've used it all day, I'm sick and tired of being on the phone, we go our separate ways, it's up here relaxing, I'm downstairs relaxing, we're giving each other, you know, our space and everything. So I won't know with the video doorbell chime because the phone's not in my possession or something. So those are kind of some of the things that I want to do, or the two main things, video doorbell and the second chime. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do or thinking about doing and not sure if you can do it, let's figure all that stuff out together. So first thing is you want to figure out what kind of doorbell or video doorbell unit you want to use. The big ones seem to be Ring and Nest, but there's a ton of other ones out there that are good options depending on what your needs are. So I personally am going with a Nest video doorbell because I already have a Nest thermostat, and for me it is much easier to use the same manufacturer because that means I can use the same app. I don't have to download another app on my phone. I don't know if some of the other manufacturers play nice with this one and you can put it on the same app, or do you have to have a second app? You've got an app for your thermostat, you've got an app for your front doorbell, so for me it simplifies things, and I always like to do that, especially if you're looking at different electronics and stuff. So if you're using the same manufacturer, Nest, for both of them, and you can use the same app, well, you just simplified my life. So that's why I'm going with it. I'm not saying that it's the best one, it's just the one I'm going with, but I think it's a good one. So I've installed a couple others for other people, so now this is me installing one at my house, so I've got all the practice in. So you're going to need to figure out a few things other than I've decided I'm going to use a Nest. You might decide you're going to use Ring, some other brand. So you've decided on what you're going to use. Now you need to figure out a couple things. So, and we'll figure that out together. So you need to figure out, do I have a wired doorbell? Typically you would, but if you have an older home that didn't have a wired doorbell, you might have a battery operated doorbell, and I'll show you how you can tell the difference and how you can figure that out. So you need to figure out if a wired or a battery operated doorbell. That'll help you figure out which type of video doorbell you need to buy, wired or battery operated, or if you want to run wires. So the other thing you figure out is you need to find a location for your second chime you're going to put in. You need to find somewhere you can easily install it and easily get wires to it, because you're going to have to wire that as well. So you're going to figure out the routing for the wiring and everything. You also need to figure out, is the current transformer you have good enough for the system you're putting in, or do you need to upgrade to a different transformer? So wired or battery operated, which unit you're going to use, secondary chime location and wiring to it, and then do you have the right transformer? So let's go figure all that stuff out, and then we'll order some parts and start working. Okay, so here we are at my front door. Now, obviously the easiest way to find out whether you have a wired or a battery operated doorbell is just to remove the screws and remove it from the wall and see if you have wires in the back. If you have wires, it's wire operated, and if it's got a battery in the case of it, then obviously it's battery operated. So it could be the coin style, could be, you know, any variety of the smaller batteries that you'll see for security systems or a AAA or that kind of stuff. So typically the battery operated doorbells will be slightly larger because they do have to hold some electronics and they have to hold a battery. So that's kind of a telltale sign that you have a battery operated one. Let's go on to our doorbell chime and check that out. Okay, so we're back inside. This is my existing chime, so I want to remove the cover and kind of see what's going on inside. So I know mine is just a press fit, so I can just pull on it lightly and the cover comes off. Yours, depending on what type you have, might have a screw or something like that, like a little set screw, either on the bottom or on the sides or something like that, or maybe even the top, that just kind of keeps it in place and so it won't fall out. So mine just pulls off. Yours, you might look around the edges for a screw behind it, and it's probably little Phillips or something like that. So unscrew that and remove your cover. Then we're going to look at a couple things inside your chime. So first thing I'm looking for is I want to see if it says anything on the cover as to what the electrical needs are for it. So I'm looking at it, left side, nothing. Right side is a little wiring diagram, which is helpful, but it doesn't tell me what size transformer it needs. So now I've removed this earlier, and typically your transformer is going to be in an electrical box right behind your chime. So I've done 2 or 3 other upgrades for some friends and stuff, and that is exactly where the transformer was. So when I removed this screw and just take this off, and it's kind of hanging by the wire, so be careful there. I was kind of doing a little investigating, and the transformer was not behind the chime. So you have to ask yourself, well, if it's not there, where is it? So let's kind of ponder that for a second. It needs to be accessible. You need to be able to run wires to it. So what other places in your house might it be? Typically, if it's not behind the chime and it's not accessible and behind the doorbell, it's probably going to be in an unfinished space like your furnace room, or if your hot water heater, that kind of stuff. It'll be in a utility closet somewhere else in your house. So we'll have to go check downstairs where my utility room is and see if it's down there. Okay, so we're down in my utility closet area downstairs. My very messy, tiny utility closet. So this makes the most sense for where it might be if it's not already in your electrical box for your chime. So you come down here. If you don't know what you're looking for, it might be a little difficult. So you could look up online real quick what does a small transformer or a doorbell transformer look like, and you could walk right in and look for a transformer, which there's one right there. But it's puzzling because it's attached to my HVAC system. So is that a control for the HVAC, or is it the control for my doorbell? So it is a transformer though, so let's keep that in mind. So I've kind of looked around in my closet, and I've kind of found a few of those wires, but I looked at this wire and I go, that's probably it. And the reason, even though it's on my HVAC system, the reason that it's there is probably because that was an easy source of power. So one way to figure out if this is your doorbell, and this is what I did, is I just undid the screws there, took the wires off, and went up and ringed my doorbell, and my doorbell did not work. So that verified to me that this is in fact my transformer for my doorbell. And the reason they put it here is because they just tied into the electrical that's in that switch. So it's not switched electrical, but they just stole the power that's in there. There's already a metal box that they could easily put the transformer on. And when we swap that out, I can show you how to do that. So now that we've found the transformer for our unit, we want to verify. And I already said when we swap it out, so I already know that I have to change this one out, because trying to find out what type it is might be kind of hard to see, but basically on the red card that's sitting right there, I can see that it's 16 volts right between the two screws, which might be hard to see, and it's 10 VA, so 10 volt amperes. So that is not good enough for the system I want to run, especially with 2 chimes. So I know after doing a little research that my Nest thermostat needs a 16 volt transformer, which we have, but it's only 10 volt amperes, or which is good for the 1 chime I have, but it is not good for the 2 chimes that I want to have, as well as the video doorbell. So it's recommended 16 volt, 30 volt amperes, or VA, so 30. I have a wired doorbell, so I can order the Nest wired version. I've looked up the specs on that. It needs 16 volt, 30 VA transformer, so I can order one of those. I need a second doorbell chime, which runs off of 16 volts, probably 10 VA. And I already know, because looking at this transformer, it's 16 volts, 10 VA. My existing chime uses that. So I can keep my existing chime. I can add a second chime that is also 16 volt, 10 VA. And then that is still sufficient to run my Nest wired video doorbell. So now that we know all the stuff that we need to buy, and then also I need to get some wire, whether you buy it or have some around your house, to run to the new doorbell chime. So for me, I'm downstairs. I'm basically right below my existing doorbell chime, and this is kind of center of the room and everything. So you kind of step out of the room. This is central, so more than likely I'm just going to put it, you know, right there on my wall, because I have easy access behind it. It'd be easy to run cabling, super easy. So that's more than likely where I'm going to put it, is right on that wall, just for ease. And it is pretty much centrally located, just the next floor below. It's at the bottom of the stairs. There's 2 bedrooms down here, the family room, all that kind of stuff. I think if I put it there, it's going to be easily heard, no matter what room you happen to be in, even if you're in the laundry room in the back part of the house. So I think that's what I'm doing. So let's order the parts and then get working. Okay, so we got some stuff in the mail. I'll show you what we got to work with, and then we'll go on the installation from there. So first up, we got our video doorbell. I'm using the Google Nest one, because like I said previously, it works with my Nest thermostat, and so I wanted everything on the same app. So we've got the doorbell. Set of instructions that come with it, and the nice thing about this is this is what comes in the box. We got the doorbell, we got the wall plate, and when we're installing that, you want to pay attention to this is up and that's the bottom. So the up has the up and down adjustment, and the bottom side to side, so you can get it completely square in your space when you install it. It also shows you where the removal tool goes when you're trying to remove the face plate, again, to do any kind of work or rewire it or any kind of things like that. We got the chime connector right here, and then, well, this comes in a little box. So you've got screws, we've got the 15-degree wedge if you want to adjust the position of your video doorbell one way or the other. If you don't want it coming straight out, you can adjust it one way or the other just by flipping it. So you get 15 degrees of adjustment on that. And then we've got the release tool, which is right there. So after install, put this in a safe place, so it'll help you to remove your doorbell if you have to do any work on it. Extension wires right there. Masonry bit, which is awesome because I have a stucco interior and I will need that. And then wall anchors, which are the little plastic deals in there. So that's what comes with this kit. And our transformer arrived. And really, it's just a transformer and then some wiring instructions, which we're not going to use because we're using a different kind of doorbell rather than a standard doorbell. So we've got the correct transformer, 16 volt, 30 VA. So next, we got our inexpensive doorbell chime. Came with some instructions, some screws, which I will probably not use. They seem pretty cheap. And then our actual doorbell chime. And again, this one, like mine, is a press fit, so you can pop it off and you've got access to the interior. So it looks very similar to the interior of mine. So I don't know if mine was the same brand or not, but they look pretty familiar. So, and then lastly, that's the stuff that I've ordered online. And then lastly, remember we're going to install that second chime. So my current one has a electrical box behind it, and then the chime is mounted to that, to the face of it. So there's no electrical going in there other than low voltage. So a box is not necessary. But if they decided to run power into the box and then put the transformer in there, they'd have to use like a double gang box instead of the single one. It would be double wide to have room to put the transformer in it and then do the low voltage wiring. But mine, the transformer's down in the utility room, so a box is not even necessary. So when I do mine, I can either use a box. This is a new work box, meaning you have access to the interior wall. You put the box in place up against the stud. That's a little spacer for your sheetrock, so you put it up against your stud, so it's sticking out that far. You nail in the 2 nails, and that holds it in place. And then you sheetrock around it, and that makes it flush. Then you have your positions to screw into for other devices and stuff like that. And then if you have an existing wall, you're going to put it somewhere. You would trace this out on your sheetrock where you want to put it, insert the box into the sheetrock, and so it will stick up a little bit from the sheetrock. And then as you screw these screws in, these little flags come out, and then as you tighten them, it sandwiches the sheetrock between this flange and these little flags that pop out. So that's an old work box. So, and then they do have a low voltage rings, since you don't need to put low voltage wiring inside of an electrical box. It's low voltage, it's not necessary. They make low voltage rings, which are very similar to this with the flags and stuff. So you trace out where it goes, you insert the ring, and basically it looks like this, except all of this has been removed. So it's just a flange with a ring around it, just for stability and give you some mounting holes. So since none of that is really necessary for what I'm doing, and my transformer is actually in my utility closet, I'm probably just going to drill a hole through the sheetrock, which is big enough for my wire to come through. And then I will tie a knot in it so that it will not fall through the wall. I have access, so it's not a big deal for me, but if you're doing yours in an area where you don't have the access, drill a hole just big enough for the wire to come through, tie a knot on this side of the sheetrock so it won't fall on the wall and then you have to try to fish it back out again. So that, and then leave enough excess so that you can hook it up to your chime. And then on my chime, going back to it, see, the box wouldn't help me too much in this way because how this one is mounted is these 2 screws on the side. So if I were to run a box for my wire and stuff like that, it would be behind it. Well, the screw holes do me no good. So that's why I'm probably going to just do the hole in the wall, and then I'll drill for my little bolts. It only came with those 2 little screws. I have plastic anchors like that and screws and stuff that I'll probably use to mount this guy. So it came with screws. It did not come with anchors, if I remember correctly. Yeah, no anchors with that. That's why I said I probably won't use them, and these are pretty cheap screws. They look like aluminum or something like that, flatheads, so I've got something better. And then, so I'm not using the boxes and stuff. And then lastly, I mean, I showed you the wire, and I already have a spool of spare wire from another project that I'm going to use, and it is perfect because it is 18 gauge, which is what's recommended for this doorbell installation. And if you're not sure about how to tell what gauge it is and stuff, it usually says right on the sheathing. So 18 AUG, or American wire gauge, so 18 gauge, 2 conductor. Okay, so to get started, we need to kill the power to everything so it's safe to work on it. It is a low voltage system, but you don't want to short out your new doorbell by hooking up the wires wrong, because we do need to redo the wiring and everything in this one, because I'm adding a chime and some other things. So the wiring is going to change quite a bit. So to be safe, let's just kill the power to it. We'll disconnect the transformer. We'll install the new one, and we won't hook it up yet until we get all the other wires correct, and then that'll be the last hookup we do. Then we'll power it up, and then we can add the doorbell into my app and get it all set up and stuff after all the power and electrical and wiring stuff is all complete. So remember, we had my transformer was connected into the HVAC, so I need to kill the power to the HVAC. So if you're servicing the unit, you just have to flip the switch down and it's off, and you can service the unit. That's basically the disconnect for the HVAC system. But since we're getting into the wires and we're splicing into existing wires, I need to kill the power altogether at the box. So probably the easy ways for me to do that is, since I know this is the AC box, let's go, I'm going to remove the cover plate here, check it with my device and see that it's live, and then I go shut off the circuit breaker for the AC unit and see if that kills it. I'll test it again with my unit and see if the electrical power is dead at that point. So let's get to that point. Okay, so I've removed the cover plate, and I'm going to test it. And you see that the light turned red. Some of these will make a noise as well. Mine just lights up. So I still know that there's power in there. And as I was saying before, I've turned off the unit. You probably heard that. But I still have power coming into the box. So I'm going to go kill it and see if we can find the correct breaker at the breaker box. Okay, so let's try some other ones. So furnace, that seems to make sense, since that is what we're working on, HVAC furnace. There we go, it is the furnace. No light, power's dead in there, I'm safe to touch it. So let's disassemble that and wire in the... Okay, so now we got some things torn apart. Let's take a look at it. So the existing transformer actually has 2 black leads and a green ground. So our new one is what you would normally see, a common black, a neutral white, and a ground green. So luckily for us, the way this is hooked up, it makes a lot of sense. So the black lead here will be white on our new one, so the whites will connect, and then the other black lead is tied into the switch, and that's where it gets its power from, because the power is just passing through that switch. So we'll connect the black lead to where this one is currently, and then the green ground is just wired to the box in the back. So so we'll do the green ground there, the black will go to the switch, and then the white will go to these other 2, which is, you can see, just passing through the conduit and into the unit. This one power in. Now there's not the power in here, which means this is always hot. And then energize the unit going through that bottom one. So if I were to put this down here on the new one, I would have switched power to the doorbell, and I could turn it on and off to work on it and stuff. But since it's up here where the power is coming in, it's always energized. So if you wanted to switch it, you can put it down the lower switch and use the switches, this switch, to turn off the HVAC unit and service it, and also turn off the doorbell. But I don't think I need that, so I'm just going to hook it just back the way they have it set up. And so let me put the camera down. We'll hook up all this stuff. We'll get the new one installed. It just has a little lock ring on the back if you're not familiar with these. Usually you can just whack that with a large flathead screwdriver to get it loose, and then just unscrew it. Get your wires loose, rewire nut everything on there, tie down my other black lead to this screw up here, and then reinstall it here with a little locking nut there. And then I'm going to leave these leads off, because we're going to hook everything else up and get all wired correctly, because I do need to change
the wiring that's in the upstairs chime and how those are run. So let me wire that. I don't think you want to watch me do that, and you're just going to look at the back of my hand. So let me do that, and then we'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so everything's back together. Went well. I hooked it up just like I said I would. The white to the white, black to the switch, or top of the switch terminal, and then the ground actually to the box. So I've left off these leads that actually go to the doorbell because we need to redo all the wiring up there. So for down here for now, until we hook these up, we are done with the transformer and this part of the work. So I think next I'm going to mount the chime down here because I'm close to where that's going to go. So let's work on that next. Okay, so I discussed earlier, I'm going to put my doorbell kind of central to downstairs, so whether I'm watching TV over there, sitting here playing games, one of the bedrooms or the back workroom or doing laundry or something like that, it's kind of middle of the floor. So I think I'm going to put it here. Nice thing is I don't have to jump on a ladder because, you know, basements and short ceilings and stuff, it's under all this ducting and everything. So I like it here. So I'm going to place it there. The only thing I have to worry about is I do know there's a bunch of wires on the other side of this, and luckily I can see them. So I'm going to miss everything. I'll be careful with my drills. But I need to mark some holes to make this easier on me. So you can either eyeball it if you're not comfortable with that, torpedo level. Just put it on the top. So your bubble is where you want it. I'm going to mark those screw holes. And I'm going to mark, there's a hole back here where the wire is going to come through. So I've got the small hole for the wires to run through, to wire up the chime, and then the two little holes where I'm going to put those plastic anchors, so I have something to screw into. So there's a stud here, and I think one here, but this one I think is going to miss it. So I'm going to put that there. So let's drill those real quick, and then we'll move on. Okay, so we got the holes marked. Let's drill those real quick. And just a little trick, this makes cleanup from drilling holes in your wall, that kind of stuff, super easy. Just use your dustpan and hold it underneath, so edge flat against the wall. And remember I have the wires on the other side, so being careful not to go too far in. Just through the sheetrock. And since I just need this big enough for the wire, I'm going to use the same drill bit. It's more than enough. So you caught a majority of the dust in the pan, and now you don't have to vacuum when you're done. So a little hint that's saved me a lot of time. Okay, put plastic anchors in. I mean, you can use a hammer for this. I know electricians that use basically one or two tools. Their linesmen are their hammer and everything. So tapping them with a hammer, tapping the back of your screwdriver, whatever. So now those are in, we can anchor the base of our doorbell. And usually if you buy something and it comes with the plastic anchors and the screws, the instructions will tell you what size hole to drill for the anchor. Me, since I just pulled these out of my storage bins, I just had to take my my drill bits and look at the width of the anchor that's going in. And I always drill it slightly smaller so that it's a nice tight fit when I tap these in. Not too small because you're going to deform the plastic if you're hitting them with a hammer. The tops will just fold over. So slightly smaller than the width of the anchor, and you should be in pretty good shape. So, but again, if you buy something with those, it'll tell you the size hole. If not, you're gonna have to guess a little bit. And I figured out that just slightly smaller than the plastic anchor, and then you have a nice snug fit. And then as you screw the screw in, it'll make it perfect. first one I never like to go all the way in. I like to leave it loose. So I do need to find the other hole. Just put it in there. Yep. So I found the anchor on both sides. Okay, and that's tight. Yeah, so we're good here. I'm not going to put the cover on because I still have to run the wire through the back and do the wiring and stuff. So we're done with transformer, we're done here. Let's look at wiring. So I'm going to have to disassemble the doorbell at the top. So I'm going to look at some wiring diagrams and make sure that what I'm going to do is going to work. And then we'll get this all wired. And the last thing we're going to do is go to the doorbell and hook that up last after it's powered. The wires are running correctly. Everything's looking good. Then we'll power up the doorbell and get it added to my Nest app. Okay, so it is much later in the day. I finally got my wires run for everything. So I was trying to figure out a way to not have to run another wire, but I did have to run a wire from my chime box upstairs downstairs to the basement here to the new chime. So this new chime is going to be the dead end. And then I think transformers down here in the closet. So we'll check over there. I've got a new wire run for that because I actually used the old wire to pull the new wire and it kind of got torn up. So it took a while, so that's why I didn't want you to watch me pull wire and stuff, because it took me about 4 hours to find, go up in the attic, find a spot, try a couple places, didn't work, so ran all my wires up through there. And then the old wire kind of went up here into a hole, and then it passed through this wall here, and unfortunately had to cut a hole in that box up there where the venting is and everything, because the wiring comes through the wall, across, then up into the floor above, and that was the difficulty in my space. And every house is going to be different, so watching me do my wiring is probably not going to help you a great deal, other than give you ideas on how maybe to run wire. So I used the existing wire as a pull string. I was a little concerned that it was getting caught up and it was going to break, so I pulled it back out and actually used pull string that I have, taped on the new wires and pulled them up one at a time. So I replaced the old one with the 20 AUG stuff to the 18 AUG, which is what they recommend. So the only 18 left, sorry, the only 20 AUG left is from the doorbell to the upstairs chime. Everything else is the proper 18 gauge wire. So that same hole I pulled wire down in, so one goes to the transformer and then the other one, this is the back of where my new chime is. So you see the wire sticking out up there. So that's ready to hook up. Transformer's ready to hook up. Let's run upstairs. Made a total disaster of my house, moving stuff around. A million trips upstairs, downstairs, back and forth to get the strings pulled through so we get caught up. Anyway, so here is the upstairs original chime. So I've got the original doorbell wire, and then one of these went downstairs, but I ran a new one and then I ran a second one. So I replaced one and then I ran a secondary one. So now I've got two new ones going downstairs. This is going to the doorbell. And now I can look at my, I can start hooking everything up. So the hard part was running wire. The easy part is hooking everything up. Okay, let's just take care of the doorbell swap. There we go. A lot of bugs. this looks like it's kind of stuck in my stucco already, so I'm not too concerned about it falling back in the wall, luckily, because these plates for at least these Google Nests, there's not a lot of room to tie a knot so that it won't fall back in the wall and everything. So if you don't have yours connected like that, try pulling out as much as you can, tying a knot in it while you're working on it and stuff, but you're probably going to have to undo the knot and slide it back in because there's not a whole lot of room behind the doorbell itself to hide all this stuff. So now let's pull off some of this old caulk. The new doorbell should cover most of that, so I'm not overly concerned, but let's do a test fit. And as a reminder, the 2 wires screw into there and it clicks into here, and I'm also going to use the 15-degree trim piece because I've already looked at it, and a nice way to figure out whether you need this or not is this wall is really close, and I put my cell phone flat up against the wall and took a picture, and it took an awful lot of this wall. So then I turned my cell phone at 15 degrees and took another picture, and it got more space out here, less wall. So my walkway straight up to the house, it's just going to be a wall, so I actually get more coverage if I turn it and use the 15-degree plate. So remember, the up and down slot is on the top, and then the side-to-side slot is on the bottom. So wow, shockingly, I think I can use those same holes. So I'm going to make sure they're the correct size. And then if you just have wood siding or something like that, just make sure you use the correct drill bit. This comes with a masonry bit in case you have brick. In my case, stucco, which is a concrete product. So I'm going to put up my drill bit, or sorry, my drill. Make sure. They're the correct size. There we go. Okay, and then just like an arrow, they insert into the hole. Now the other thing too is this happens to be under my porch, so I've got a bit of a, not huge, but maybe 2-3 foot overhang. So there's caulk on this from before, but I really, after being here for years, have not noticed any water issues. So okay, so make sure we got it aligned correctly. On top. The wires fed through. And again, I don't snug everything down until both screws are started. So in case I need to make adjustments, I can. The other thing too is make sure this is straight. It is not. One is for. Sorry, that's what the bottom one's for. That looks good there. Okay, it's pulling it out of being square just because the back wall is not super flat. It's a very rough surface for the stucco. I think that is pretty good, so we're gonna go with that. Let's make sure those are snug. Okay. Okay. Good. Now you just have to keep in mind these wires have to fit in that cavity right there. You can't have them down here because this lays flat. So on this system, does not matter which wire goes where. It will later when we're hooking the other stuff up. So probably didn't see any of that, did you? Okay. Good. Try to tuck the wires up in there. And then top in first. And click in the bottom, and then uncover. And then there we are. We are done outside. Okay, so let's get all of this stuff connected. So I've got this brown wire with the thinner wires is coming from the doorbell. The wire that's marked green is going down to my second chime downstairs, and then this wire is the new wire I ran to replace the other wire which I ripped up running the other wires. This goes to the transformer. So let's get all this stuff hooked up. And the somewhat confusing wiring and everything is going to be up here because this is where our device for our Google Nest is. That connects to the internet, connects to our network and everything. You saw the doorbell just has the two wires. It doesn't matter which one you connect it to. Transformer has two wires. Doesn't really matter. You can't mess that up. The second chime downstairs has two wires. So this is where all the wiring is going. I decided to do also wiring in here because most of the wires came in here, and I just had to run a wire down to the box to the other chime downstairs. And then this had a transformer wire, but it was cut up, so I replaced that too. So this is where all the wiring connections are going to be, but it is all low voltage, so and it already has a box, so it just made the most sense to put it here. So let me refer to my wiring diagram. Just make sure that when you're tightening your screws and you put your wires on, that you put your wires hooked that way, so when you're tightening the screw, it'll actually spool it onto the screw. If you put them on the other way, it's going to spin the wire off and it's going to fall off more chances than not. So, okay. Tug. All right. So, you're looking good there. So, black is transformer. So remember this when we go downstairs. Black is transformer and red is for the chime. So when we hook up the one other chime downstairs, that's what the larger wire is going to do. And then the transformer downstairs, doesn't matter, those two wires just get connected. So now we're going to take all these wires, and I zip tied them together and tied a little knot so they don't go too far down the wall, because I do like to have a lot of wire to be able to do my connections and everything. But now, pull this in there. Put this back on. So the back of that device for the Google Nest actually has an adhesive on it, so you can peel it off and then stick it to the inside of the box, or stick it to the back of this if you want. But honestly, I just tucked it in the box because if I need to get in and work on it again, that's just easier to pull it out. So, okay. Now I'm going to pull these up and in so that they're not in the way of the chimes. Okay. So should be good to go. Slap the cover on and we'll be done up here. Okay, so let's hook up the downstairs chime. Already prepped the wires. Well, somewhat evidently. Weird chime. Okay, and then make sure it's out of the way of the dongles. Okay. Stuff's in. Find the cover. This is press fet too, so this just clicks on. You're done on that one. Okay, and then lastly, I just got to hook up these wires to the transformer. So I'm going to do that real quick, then turn the power back on, and then I can set up my video doorbell and get it on my network, and we'll see how it is when we're done. Okay, so I think everything went well. I had to reset the breaker to reboot this, but let's give it a shot. So you probably heard the chime on my phone. So it looks like everything is good. So that is the end of this. So everything went well. The most difficult part was running wire, and I kind of knew that was going to be it. So. Okay, so it's the next day. I finished up the video doorbell project yesterday. It was getting a little bit late, so I just kind of put things away, cleaned up the house because I made a mess of that house, moving stuff around and furniture and taking some artwork off the walls, getting them out of the way, that kind of stuff. So overall, the project I would say is not very difficult. Like I said earlier, I've done 2 or 3 of these things now, and by far mine was the most difficult install. And the only reason for that is because I decided to add the second doorbell chime. And in doing that, I had to run another wire. So I couldn't see any way around it, so I had to run an additional wire from the first floor doorbell chime box all the way down to the basement level where I was going to put the other chime. So that I didn't record because I knew it was going to be a pain in the butt. I was correct. That part alone took probably a good 4 hours. And if you had someone to help you, it would probably go a little bit quicker, because the big thing with running wires and stuff, it's you're trying to find a existing channel to run it through. I spent some time up in my attic in the middle of the day, which is horribly hot. So trying to see if there's some different locations I could run some things, try to 2-3 different locations, was trying to track down wires, all that kind of stuff. So I ended up just using an existing electrical box below where the chime is, used that to run a fish tape through down to the lower level. It took a while.
I was doing it by myself, so I was running up and down stairs, so my legs are a little bit tired today, my back's a little aching, so after that project was done, a little ibuprofen and a little relaxing, and so I feel much better today. But the project overall is not a difficult project. For most people, it's just going to be removing the old equipment, installing the new equipment. So you take off the doorbell push button, you put the new device in place. If you need to upgrade your transformer, you're removing the old one, putting the new one in place that looks basically the same. All the wiring is pretty simple. So overall, as projects go, it's not a difficult one. If you go to run wire and stuff, that's going to be a difficult one. I didn't record a lot because there's so many scenarios for wiring that you can run into. And I had to use a lot of my experience from past jobs and stuff in trying to figure out a good way to run the wires and everything. So, but overall, successful. I also did not show you how to set up, in my instance, the Google Nest video doorbell, because the online and the app options go through it step by step. So you put the app on your phone and you just follow step by step and you just do what it says to do, and you should be in good shape. So there's nothing really that I could give to you that would benefit you other than doing that. On the initial setup yesterday, I did have to reset my breaker. So basically reboot the doorbell and everything for it to connect to my network. And then this morning it dropped out of the network, so I just realized it's a little bit far away from my internet connection. So I do have a network extender in my home. So it's now running off the network extender, which is 20 feet away from where the doorbell is. So we'll see how that is over time, but it seemed to fix the problem this morning. So other than that, things went well. We'll see if leaving the smaller wire in place from the doorbell to the transformer and stuff is going to be an issue, but I've seen other people do this with much smaller wire. Not recommended, but I don't know that they have any adverse effects with it. So hopefully by watching this video, it gave you some insight. I always learn best by watching someone do something, so hopefully watching me do it could give you a little inspiration as far as, yeah, that's something you can tackle, or nope, I'm going to hire somebody and have them do it for me, or get a friend to come over and help you. Obviously doing it by myself takes a while, takes longer, so if I had to help, who knows, that 4 hours could have been an hour, 2 hours, something like that. So expect to spend some time if you're running cable and stuff like that. If you're just doing the upgrade to a new doorbell and keeping your chime and all that kind of stuff in the same place, I would think under an hour easy, even if you read all the instructions and watched a few videos and that kind of stuff. So preparation's key. Showed you the walkthrough, figure out what you need, order all parts. The install I felt went well, just took a lot longer than I thought it would, and I knew that the wiring was going to be difficult, but it was more difficult and time consuming than I was expecting. So anyway, if this video helped you at all, I appreciate if you like, share, and subscribe. Smash all the buttons. Appreciate it. Helps me continue to make these videos and hopefully help out some people. So on the next project, see you next time.